very warm welcome to these tutorials, which will empower you to play elementary music expressively and fluently. Number one, to cultivate and maintain a deep personal connection with the music throughout all your practice activities. This is the cornerstone of fluent expressive playing, and leaving it out at any stage will negatively affect your outcomes. And number two, to play by ear as much as possible, to take the music off the page, as my American teacher Sophia Rossoff used to say, and to put it in your mind's ear for the direct expressive coordination that this produces. In each video in this playlist, I'll be offering 2 tips that prioritize these fundamental elements of fluent expressive playing. Do please check out the other videos in this playlist as they form a series and complement each other. And do please visit pianoportals.com, where you can find out more about the joyful, holistic approach to piano technique underpinning the advice I'm giving here. Please note that I'm demonstrating these activities having already grown to know and love the musical sounds of these pieces in detail. That's why I don't have the score in front of me, but I would of course start with the score or with a recording or with both if I don't actually know the music yet. It's all in the detail. It's about noticing interesting or perhaps unexpected details in either the melodies or the harmonies which characterize a particular piece. Now, you might think that you need some experience of listening to or getting to know classical music in order to notice these things. Well, I'm drawing a few of them to your attention in this particular instance, but I would go with anything that you like, anything that your ear hooks onto, that grabs your attention. And just focus on that. Ask yourself, why do I like it? What does it bring to the table expressively? In the case of this piece, it's based on very simple harmonies. Now, that already is quite a theoretical thing to notice, but I think it is something that's important to appreciate at this level, even when you're getting to know music at this elementary level, to notice what the underpinning harmonies are and how they relate to the scale. For example, the lower stave music of the first phrase goes like this. Now, if I play each bar as one single chord, which is what's implied by the pattern, so you've got a bass note and then you've got the other 2 notes of the chord. So this is essentially that which in G major, which is the key that we're in, is chord 1. It's a G major chord. And then the chord for bar 2 is very similar to the bar 3 chord. And if I take my bass note as the cue, the main note of the chord, if I play a simple triad there, it makes a D major chord, which happens to be chord 5. And in any song, any simple song or a pop song even, these are the most common chords, chord 1 and chord 5. So I've got chord 1 followed by chord 5. It's actually 1, 3, 5, 7. It's actually 5 with the 7th, 5, 7. Don't worry about that for now. The most important thing is the bass note. So you've got chord 1, chord 5, chord 5 again, and then you would expect just to go back to chord 1. But in fact, you have this, which is called a suspension. In other words, you expect back to chord 1, G major, 1, 3, 5, G, B, D. But in fact, you get this C in the middle, and the C doesn't belong in this chord, it belongs in the previous chord. There it was, at the top, and it's suspended over into the chord, which means it's dissonant, it doesn't belong, it clashes. And then at the end of the bar, it resolves to the chord that we expect, chord 1. So we end up with this. Now that, I think, gives the music a poise, a dignity that it might not have if it simply went. It gives an extra dimension, an expressive dimension at the end of that first phrase. Not only that, but the melody also follows suit. In other words, it doesn't do what you might expect it to do. You might expect it to go, or something like that. In other words, to finish on a note that fits with the G major harmony, the G major chord that's implied below. All I've done there is I've substituted an A sharp B instead of what's written. Now, in fact, what you get is, and the whole thing doesn't resolve at all. What a weird chord to end on, until the resolution at the end of the bar. But the resolution isn't a proper resolution because it's actually the beginning of the next phrase. So it doesn't stop and resolve. It kind of resolves, but then carries straight on. Now, what is the point of all of this? Well, it's acknowledging that noticing and lingering over any wonderful details in the melodies or harmonies can help you not only to really appreciate and internalize the music in detail, but it will help you to remember it, because you think, oh yeah, that's that bit where you've got that strange chord, or that note hangs over from the last chord. In other words, you'll remember what you love, what you cherish, what you know intimately, and you'll come to expect what you're looking forward to. So you think, oh yeah, that's the bit that's coming up. Wow, okay. So these are the kind of things that I find striking, and what actually elevates this beyond a simple dance that might have been written by indeed a composer such as Beethoven or Schubert just to make some money, to the next level. And I think some of these small dances are on that sort of money-making level, and some are exquisite. And I think this is a great one. I want to return to Abby Whiteside's concept of outlining, or what I've called in outline. In other words, play the piece in outline. Find the overarching main notes, the most important notes, and start with those without trying to fill in all the detail right from the outset. And what this does is it encourages your mind and body to sync up with, to grow to know and appreciate the overarching phrase-wise flow, narrative, progression of the music, rather than get stuck in a kind of note by note, because it's quite intricate and complicated, this music. But if you start with an outline, you teach yourself the flow and the feel of the music as the priority. And for me, that is the cornerstone of fluent expressive playing. So once you've got to know the main melody and you feel happy with it, then you could add, say, the main bass notes. And as always, introduce an element of improvisation, of playfulness at every stage. So you could completely change the character, the articulation also of the piece. Then, when you're happy with that and you're happy with the chords or the implied chords, I would play the accompaniment as block chords, and that could be another outline that you could use. When it comes to the second main section of the piece, I would keep your outline really simple at first. So assuming you've got to know the main tune, maybe add just the first bass note of that simple phrase first. All the while focusing on the expressive content of the music. So those two phrases that are identical, are they identical also in intensity, in expression? And when you're happy that you know how the bass music goes, in other words, it goes up a chord, a broken chord, an arpeggio, you could add that as part of your outline. Piano Portals is a truly holistic approach, and given that, I can only go so far into it with these little snippets of advice. In these tutorials, I'm starting where I would always recommend that you start, with principles 1 and 2 of 7 from Piano Portals, which is first, to connect deeply and personally with the music at all stages and throughout all activities, and number 2, to play by ear as much as possible. Piano Portals is about meeting you where you are, not doing a load of unnecessary activities for the sake of it, but becoming the expert over time on your own playing coordination, leaving things well alone if they're already working fine, but bringing your increasing self-awareness to elements of your coordination that may require freeing up or integrating further. So there may be subtle refinements in the rest of your playing coordination that could empower you further to play more expressively and fluently. And for this, I highly recommend that you visit pianoportals.com and check out the ever-increasing range of online courses, ebooks, tutorials and cheat sheets on offer to open-minded pianists and teachers like yourself. And please don't hesitate to be in touch with any queries or questions or your responses to these tutorials. I'd love to hear how you're getting on with these pieces.